These people don't even belong in this country, let alone in a courtroom with me. That's what I heard echo through my courtroom on a Tuesday morning. I'll never forget. I'm Judge Frank Caprio, and I've been presiding over Providence Municipal Court for more years than I care to count. I've seen arrogance, I've seen entitlement, but what walked through my doors that day was something else entirely. The young woman who said those words was 23 years old. Her name was Madison Sterling. She wore a cream-colored Gucci blazer over designer jeans that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her nails were freshly done, and her face carried an expression I recognized immediately, the look of someone who'd never heard the word no in her entire life. If you believe justice should be equal for everyone, you'll want to see what happens next. My bailiff, Officer Torres, stood at attention near the door. Case 2026 TR 48291, he announced. The State versus Madison Sterling. Charges include reckless driving, leaving the scene of an accident, and destruction of property. I looked down at my paperwork, then back up at the defendant. Good morning, Ms. Sterling. Please approach the bench. She walked forward like she was on a runway. Her heels clicked against the floor. She didn't look nervous. She looked annoyed. But before we got to her, I needed to hear from the people she'd hurt. I'd like to hear from the complainants first, I said. Mr. and Mrs. Patel, please come forward. An older couple stood from the gallery. The man was probably in his late 50s. He wore a simple button-down shirt tucked into pressed pants. His wife wore a traditional sari in soft blue fabric. They both moved carefully, like they were afraid of taking up too much space. Mr. Patel cleared his throat. Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Rahul Patel. This is my wife, Priya. We own a small grocery store on Benefit Street. We've been there for 12 years. His accent was thick, but his words were clear. I could hear the pride in his voice when he talked about his store. We work 7 days a week, he continued. We open at 6 in the morning. We close at 10 at night. We saved for 8 years before we could afford to buy the building. It's not big, but it's ours. Mrs. Patel nodded beside him. Her eyes were wet. 3 weeks ago, on January 15th, we closed the store like normal, Mr. Patel said. We went upstairs to our apartment. We live above the store to save money. Around midnight, we heard this terrible crash, like an explosion. We ran downstairs and saw... His voice cracked. He paused, took a breath. The entire front of our store was destroyed. A car had driven straight through the window, glass everywhere, our shelves knocked over, products ruined, the freezer units were damaged, thousands of dollars of food spoiled. I leaned forward. And the driver? Gone, Mr. Patel said. Just gone. The car was still there, engine running, but whoever did it just ran away. Mrs. Patel spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft. We called the police. They came. They found the car was registered to Sterling Restaurant Group. That's how we found out who did it. I looked at Madison Sterling. She was examining her nails. Ms. Sterling, I said, you're aware of these allegations? She looked up slowly. Your Honor, I think there's been a misunderstanding. My father is Marcus Sterling. He owns 15 restaurants across New England. Sterling & Comers is one of the most acclaimed fine dining establishments in the country. I'm sure we can settle this quickly. I noticed she didn't deny anything. She just mentioned her father's name. That's not how this works, I said calmly. This is a court of law. Everyone here is equal. Now, do you understand the charges against you? She sighed. Actually sighed. Yes, Your Honor. Good. Let's look at the evidence. My clerk handed me a folder. Inside was the police report from that night. Officers had responded to the scene at 12:17 a.m. They'd found a silver Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon embedded in the storefront of Patel's grocery. The vehicle was registered to Sterling Restaurant Group, but the insurance listed Madison Sterling as the primary driver. The car was empty when police arrived. No driver, no passengers, just destruction. Officer Chen responded to the scene, I said, reading from the report. He noted significant property damage, estimated cost of repairs, $48,000. The vehicle showed front-end damage consistent with high-speed impact. There was also evidence of alcohol consumption, 2 empty champagne bottles in the back seat. Madison shifted her weight. Your Honor, I can explain. You'll have your chance, I said. Right now, I'm reviewing the facts. I turned to the next page. Security footage from a neighboring business had captured the incident. The video showed the Mercedes speeding down Benefit Street at 12:14 a.m. It ran a red light, swerved, and crashed directly into the Patel's store. 17 seconds later, a young woman matching Madison's description climbed out of the driver's seat and ran down the street. Ms. Sterling, is that you in the video? I asked. She paused too long. I don't remember that night very clearly. You don't remember destroying someone's livelihood? I asked. I had been at a celebration dinner, she said, for my father's newest restaurant opening. I may have had a few drinks. I didn't think I was impaired. A few people in the gallery whispered. I held up my hand for silence. Let me make sure I understand, I said. You drove drunk. You crashed into a family's business. You fled the scene. And then you didn't report it to anyone. My attorney advised me not to make any statements, she said, but her tone had changed. There was an edge to it now, a defensiveness. Your attorney isn't here right now, I said. You are, and you're under oath. So I'll ask you directly. Did you make any attempt to contact the Patels after the accident? No, she admitted. But Your Honor, you have to understand. I was scared. I panicked. I made a mistake. My father has already offered to pay for the damages. Mr. Patel spoke up. Your Honor, we never received any offer. No one from the Sterling family contacted us. We had to close our store for 2 weeks. We lost all that income. We had to take out a loan to pay for repairs. Madison turned to look at him for the first time, and that's when I saw it. That look, the one that told me everything I needed to know about who she really was. Maybe if your store wasn't in such a rundown building, the damage wouldn't have been so bad, she said. The gallery gasped. Officer Torres stepped forward slightly. Excuse me, I said. Madison realized she'd crossed a line, but she didn't back down. I just mean, that neighborhood isn't exactly upscale. Buildings there are old. If it had been properly maintained. Miss Sterling, I said, and my voice had gone cold. You're blaming the victims for the damage you caused? I'm just saying there's context, she said. She was getting agitated now. Her composure was cracking. My father is an important person. He employs over 200 people. He's been featured in Food and Wine magazine. He has a James Beard Award. Do you know what that is? I know what it is, I said quietly. What I don't know is what it has to do with this case. It means my family has a reputation, she said. And I don't think it's fair that we're being dragged through court over an accident. Accidents happen. We're willing to pay. Why does this have to become some big public thing? I looked at the Patels. Mrs. Patel was crying silently now. Mr. Patel had his arm around her. Let me show you something else, I said. I pulled out another document. This is a record of your phone activity from that night. Your attorney was required to provide it during discovery. Madison's face went pale. At 12:19 a.m., 4 minutes after the crash, you called someone named Daddy, I read. The call lasted 2 minutes. Then at 12:23 a.m., you called someone named Gabriel. That call lasted 8 minutes. Then you called an Uber. The ride was logged to a location 3 blocks away from the accident scene. I looked up at her. So you weren't too scared to make phone calls. You weren't too panicked to arrange a ride home. You just didn't call 911. You didn't call the police. You didn't check if anyone was hurt. You just left. No one was hurt, she said. It was just property damage. Just property damage, I repeated. Mr. Patel, how much money did you lose during the 2 weeks your store was closed? About $14,000, he said quietly. That's just the lost income, not counting the repairs or the spoiled inventory. And your insurance? I asked. We have insurance, but our deductible is $10,000, and our premium went up even though we weren't at fault. Madison made a sound, a scoff. It was small, but I heard it. So did everyone else. Is something funny, Ms. Sterling? I asked. No, Your Honor, she said quickly. It's just that amount of money. My father spends more than that on wine for one dinner service. The courtroom went completely silent. I see, I said. So because your father spends money freely, you think $14,000 isn't significant? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? She was flustered now, trapped. I just meant that we can cover it. It's not like they're going to lose everything. They'll be fine. They'll be fine, I said. Tell me, Ms. Sterling, do you know what it's like to work 7 days a week? Do you know what it's like to save every penny for 8 years just to afford a chance at the American dream? Your Honor, do you know what it's like to come to a new country with nothing, to build something from the ground up, to watch it get destroyed in seconds by someone who doesn't even have the decency to stop and apologize? She didn't answer. I pulled out the final piece of evidence. Text messages between Madison and her friend Gabrielle. The messages were from the night of the accident. Let me read these texts out loud, I said. At 12:31 a.m., you texted, OMG, I just crashed Daddy's car into some random store, lol. Your friend responded, Are you okay? You wrote back, Yeah, I'm fine. It was just some immigrant grocery place. Daddy will handle it. I set the phone down. Just some immigrant grocery place. Madison's face was red now. That was a private conversation. That's out of context. Context? I said. What context makes that acceptable? I didn't mean it the way it sounds. How did you mean it, Miss Sterling? I just meant it's not like it was a chain store or something that would make news. It was just a small store. I knew my father could fix it quietly. And then she said it. The words that would define everything that came next. Your Honor, with all due respect, these people don't even belong in this country, let alone in a courtroom with me. My family built their success through hard work, too. We shouldn't be treated like criminals just because some immigrants can't handle a little setback. 10 seconds of absolute silence. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking. I could hear someone in the gallery trying not to cry. I could hear my own heartbeat. Then the courtroom erupted, people shouting, Officer Torres calling for order, Mr. Patel standing up, shaking, Mrs. Patel holding him back. I slammed my gavel once, hard. Quiet! Everyone froze. I looked at Madison Sterling, really looked at her, and I saw someone who'd never faced a real consequence in her entire life. Ms. Sterling, I said, and my voice was steady, calm, but colder than ice. Let me tell you about belonging. I stood up. I don't usually stand, but this required it. Mr. and Mrs. Patel have lived in this country legally for 18 years. They are permanent residents. They pay taxes. They employ 3 local workers. They donate food to the homeless shelter every week. They sponsor a Little League team. They belong here more than you seem to understand. Madison opened her mouth. I held up my hand. I'm not finished, Madison. I used her first name deliberately, stripped away the formality, made it personal. You crashed a vehicle while intoxicated. That's a crime, Madison. You destroyed property worth tens of thousands of dollars. That's a crime, Madison. You fled the scene. That's a crime, Madison. You showed no remorse. You blamed the victims. You used your family's wealth and status as a shield. And then, you stood in my courtroom and suggested that hard-working people don't deserve the same justice as you. I walked down from the bench, stood directly in front of her. Let me ask you something, Madison. What have you built? What have you created with your own hands? What do you contribute to the world besides spending your father's money and looking down on people who actually work? She couldn't answer. Tears were streaming down her face now, but they felt like tears of humiliation, not remorse. Your father's achievements are his, not yours, I said. His awards don't make you special. His money doesn't put you above the law. His reputation doesn't give you permission to treat people like they're beneath you. I walked back to the bench. The Patels came here with a dream. They worked. They sacrificed. They built something real. You were born into privilege, and you wasted it on cruelty and carelessness. So let me be very clear about what's going to happen next. I picked up my gavel. Madison Sterling, I find you guilty on all charges. Here is your sentence. The courtroom held its breath. First, you will pay full restitution to Mr. and Mrs. Patel. That includes $48,000 for property damage, $14,000 for lost income, $10,000 for their insurance deductible, and an additional $15,000 for pain and suffering. Total, $87,000, due within 30 days. Madison gasped. Your Honor, I'm not finished, Madison. Second, your driver's license is suspended for 1 year. No exceptions, no hardship permit, no special arrangements. You want to go somewhere, you walk, or you take the bus like everyone else. Third, you will complete 500 hours of community service, not at some charity gala where you smile for cameras, real work. You will serve those hours at 3 locations. 200 hours at the Rhode Island Food Bank, sorting donations and packing boxes. 200 hours at an immigrant resource center, helping new Americans with paperwork and English practice. And 100 hours at Patel's grocery, working whatever shifts Mr. Patel assigns you. You'll stock shelves, you'll sweep floors, you'll see what real work looks like. Her lawyer would have objected if he'd been there, but he wasn't. It was just her and me and the truth. Fourth, you will write a handwritten apology letter to Mr. and Mrs. Patel, not typed, not dictated to an assistant. Your own hand, your own words, minimum 500 words. You'll read it aloud to them in this courtroom in 30 days, and it better be sincere. Fifth, you will create and record a public service announcement about the dangers of drunk driving and the importance of taking responsibility. It will be shown in every high school in Providence County, and you'll deliver it in person to at least 10 schools. I wasn't done. Sixth, you will attend substance abuse counseling twice a week for 6 months, and you'll attend a cultural sensitivity workshop once a week for 3 months. I want proof of attendance for every single session. Madison was openly crying now. Your Honor, please. And finally, I said, for your contempt of court, for your disrespectful behavior in this courtroom, I'm holding you in civil contempt. Officer Torres, the bailiff, stepped forward. Ms. Sterling will spend the next 72 hours in custody at the adult correctional institutions. Maybe a few days seeing how the other half lives will adjust your perspective. You can't do this, Madison screamed. My father will. Your father isn't here, Madison. You are. And you're about to learn that in this courtroom, justice is blind. It doesn't care about your last name. It doesn't care about your father's restaurants. It cares about right and wrong. And what you did was wrong. Officer Torres approached with handcuffs. Madison tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go. Please, she said, please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. You had many chances to be sorry, Madison. You chose arrogance instead. Now you'll face the consequences. The handcuffs clicked into place. Madison Sterling, in her designer blazer and perfect hair, was led out of my courtroom in tears. The gallery sat in stunned silence. I turned to Mr. and Mrs. Patel. I'm sorry you had to hear those words in this courtroom, but I want you to know that you belong here. This is your country too, and the law protects everyone equally. Mrs. Patel was crying again, but this time she was smiling through the tears. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. No, I said. Thank you. Thank you for working hard. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for showing what the American dream really looks like. 45 days later, Madison Sterling returned to my courtroom. She looked different. Her hair was in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a plain sweater. No designer labels, no attitude. Ms. Sterling, I said, you're here for your compliance review. I have reports from all your community service locations. Let's go through them. The coordinator from the food bank spoke first. Your Honor, Ms. Sterling has completed 80 hours so far. She's been on time for every shift. She works hard, no complaints. The Immigrant Resource Center reported similar progress. She's actually been helpful, the director said. She's patient with people. She listens. She's learning. Then Mr. Patel stood. Your Honor, she has worked 30 hours at my store. She's a good worker. She shows up early. She does what we ask. She even helped us create a new inventory system. He paused. She apologized to us, really apologized. Not because she had to, because she meant it. I looked at Madison. Is this true? Yes, Your Honor, she said quietly. I was wrong about everything. I was cruel and ignorant, and I'm ashamed of how I acted. The Patels are good people. They didn't deserve any of what I did to them. I'm trying to be better. I studied her face. The arrogance was gone. The entitlement was gone. Maybe she was just performing. Maybe she'd learned to say the right things. But maybe, just maybe, she'd actually learned something real. Continue your service, I said. Complete every hour, attend every session, and remember this feeling. Remember what it's like to be held accountable. Because if you ever stand before me again, we won't be having this conversation. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. That evening, after the courtroom emptied, I sat alone at my bench. I thought about Madison Sterling, about the Patels, about justice and privilege and responsibility. People ask me sometimes why I do this job, why I care so much, why I don't just process cases and go home. I do it because every person who walks through that door deserves dignity, the rich and the poor, the citizen and the immigrant, the powerful and the powerless. Justice isn't about making people feel good. It's about making people understand that actions have consequences. That character matters more than money. That respect is earned, not bought. Madison Sterling learned that lesson the hard way, but she learned it. And maybe, just maybe, she'll remember it for the rest of her life. In my courtroom, everyone belongs, and everyone is accountable. That's what justice means.